a rabbi can take an easy way out this Friday night. This Torah portion of Shalach Lecha is one of the most consequential stories in the entire religious history of the Jewish people. 12 spies are sent into the land to find out the state of the land of Canaan, to find out geographically, demographically, militarily, what is the state of this land. Will the Israelites be able to conquer the land? And therefore, 12, noblemen, very important people from each of the tribes, are sent to survey the land, and it takes them 40 days to do it. They go up and down throughout the land. They make observations. And eventually these 12 tribes, the 12 spies return, and 10 say that it is impossible to conquer the land, that the land is filled with giants, and the people see themselves as grasshoppers, and fear captures the entire community. 2, Caleb and Joshua, say, we certainly can do this. The report of the 10 creates chaos, and in the end, the fate of Israel is decided, and we know the fate. In the end, the generation who came out of Egypt must die off, and a new generation must enter the promised land. In other words, everyone who came out of Egypt, except for Caleb and Joshua, will die off, because there needs to be a new generation that isn't filled with the same fears or lack of faith that is part of the generation that left Egypt. It's a painful story, a story of fear, of disappointment, of defeat. The Israelites end up being their own worst enemies, and their failure to meet the challenge of the hour is catastrophic. That's the dominant theme of the portion, and that's the easy way out for a rabbi. I'm going to take the more difficult way out, okay? I'm just doing it because I've looked over so many decades of giving messages on Shalach Lecha, and I'm tired of that message. Okay, so I decided, let me do something that is so from left field at the New Reformed Temple. I said, let me do it. At the very end of the Torah reading, at the very end, there is this portion that is very critical to the Jewish people. It's the mitzvah of wearing a talit. I wear one, and a talit is, I'll get to you what the talit is. A talit is a prayer shawl. And what makes it a prayer shawl is that it has these fringes on the corner of the garment. I'll get to that in a moment. So the Torah tells us the following. The Lord said to Moses as follows, "Speak to the people of Israel and tell them to make for themselves fringes, tzitzit, on the corners of their garments throughout the generations. Let them attach a cord of blue to the fringe at each corner." We're going to leave that out for a moment because that gets you into another whole discussion. But just say that tzitzit originally had blue, and some people think you should bring back the blue, but again, let's keep that on the side. That shall be, you're pulling out your tzitzit, right? That has blue in it. Aren't you proud of yourself? You're so proud of yourself. Okay, keep it to yourself. Okay, you're feeling good. It's good. Okay, look what you made me do. Let them attach a cord of blue to the fringe at the corner. That shall be your fringe. Look at it and recall all of Adonai's commandments and observe them so that you do not follow your heart and eyes and be seduced or led astray. And then the ending is, thus you shall be reminded to observe all of my commandments and to be holy to your God. I, Adonai, am your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I, Adonai, your God. That's the end of our Torah portion. Now the talit is, according to this, to be a regular part of Jewish life, not something that is unique. And Rabbi Lisa Gelber, I was looking for some kind of wonderful explanation of this, and she offered a beautiful one where she says, each morning at the beginning of the Shema, We physically gather the seat from the four corners of our talit, meaning you take this one, you take this one, you take this one, and you put it together. That's what you do at the beginning of the Shema. And it demonstrates our hope that God will bring us all together in safety and in wholeness from the four corners of the earth and lead us with uprightness and dignity. Especially to bring Jews from the four corners of the world, but really to bring all the world together in a sense of oneness and unity. And by utilizing the tzitzit, these fringes become an educational tool, integrating thought and action. They are the means by which we demonstrate our commitment to all of the commandments. We don't really think about the tzitzit, read the text. God instructs us to look at them literally, to examine their composition, to remember God's mitzvot, and to do them. And with regard to this verse, our rabbis in the Talmud says, seeing leads to remembering, and remembering to doing. So this idea of seeing it, and then remembering the commandments, and then by remembering the commandments, you'll do the commandments. It's an educational tool. The Talit calls us to awareness. It is a tangible cue of our responsibilities and commitment, a sign of actions incumbent upon all Jews. The rabbis held, and this is what the Talmud says, that the mitzvah of the tzitzit is equally important to all of the other commandments, which is a major statement. By enclosing ourselves, by enwrapping ourselves in a talit, we are making a statement that we have or in search of a relationship with God. And at the end of the parsha, it says we are commanded to look at the tzitzit. And the Hebrew is so interesting. It says, it's not in this prayer book, okay? It says, lo velo taturu. It says, you shall not wander. But it literally means, in modern Hebrew, to tour. So what they're saying is, when it comes to the commandments, don't become a tourist, passively engaging in Jewish life. Don't just look around Judaism. Get in the middle of Judaism. Make it part of your life. In the Talmudic discussions, our rabbis teach us that all Jews are obligated to fulfill the mitzvah of tzitzit, including those who have chosen Judaism, women, household workers, everyone. And from this perspective, tzitzit become a symbol of participating in the community. Now, here's something interesting. In addition, that you've heard of gematria. Every Hebrew letter has a numerical value. So when you add up the numerical values of tzitzit, and then you add the number of knots and strands, according to Jewish tradition, they all add up to 613, which means the 613 commandments. So basically what it's saying is, I'm a Jew, I understand and embrace the values and traditions of our people, and commit to carry out those blessings with me as I move forward in life. Now, it's a daytime mitzvah, but it is customary on Friday night to wear the talit if you are leading worship. And the only exception to that is Kol Nidre night, you're supposed to wear a talit. I told you this isn't as easy as talking about the spies. I should have taken that path, but I didn't. For a very specific, interesting reason. Reformed Jews are so crazy about this mitzvah. They have an allergy to it. Let me give you how far the allergy goes. Traditionally, the Shema has 3 paragraphs. Do me a favor. Open up your prayer book for a moment and turn to page 40. Okay? And it is rather interesting that if you look in this, there is no where's the tzitzit? This is the story of, this is the Shema, And the paragraph that we just read is absent, even though traditionally it should be there. So I went and decided to look at the New Reform Prayer Book. And so I opened it up to page 36. This is not, we don't use it, but sometimes some people say we should. And we look at it, and again, it isn't there. What is the problem? What's happened? Why are we so scared of it? No mention of tzitzit. And in the morning service of this Siddur, they have it as an alternative. Why was it removed? Because somehow the early Reformed Jews thought it was too Jewish. Tradition, they thought the tradition was quote unquote outdated, even embarrassing. I'm not embarrassed wearing the talit. They didn't want to look too orthodox. The early reformers in both Europe and the United States rejected the need for visible identifying signs of being Jewish. According to Rabbi David Philipson in his book, The Reform Movement in Judaism, in 1845, a number of rabbis stopping in Berlin on their way home from one of the founding Reform conferences of Reform Judaism in mid-19th century Germany wrote down suggestions for reform of the synagogue service. And among them was the discontinuance of the use of the talit, and therefore also the tzitzit. And this was echoed in the Pittsburgh Platform of 1885. It's no wonder then that the early reformers eliminated most of this paragraph from the Shema. Now, I'm not only a rabbi, I am a religious anthropologist. I try to look at the tradition as objectively as I can, even though I'm a participant in it, and have some strong opinions about it. And this is what has happened in this own congregation. My first Shabbat 12 years ago, I got up before the service with a kippah and wearing a talit. I thought nothing of it. And as you remember, I was only going to be here a year, so I didn't really care what people thought. And one of the original members came up to me after the service and he said, "Rabbi, didn't anyone tell you that we don't wear a talit here?" And I said, no one told me, and I wouldn't have listened anyway. At the very beginning of my rabbinate, we had very few b'nai mitzvah and b'not mitzvah. The number has increased over time. And here's what's interesting. In the last 3 b'nai mitzvah, we've had 3 in the last month or so. Last month. Each child has worn a talit and a kippah. Now, I'm not sure that what they're going to do with the talit and the kippah after, I'm not altogether sure that they see it as something that's going to be an ongoing obligation every time they come to services on a Jewish holiday, for example, in the morning, or on a service in Shabbat morning, whether they will wear it. But the fact of the matter is that somehow becoming it has become important. Wearing it has become important. We did this wonderful innovation somehow. Somehow it's changed. And we did this wonderful change in our venue here. It really an incredible process. And it really, we're 13 months into it, and it really has made a difference. But when the process was taking place, I was on the committee. And generally, I'm outspoken. I wasn't that outspoken, okay? Because, it's not Rabbi Landy's synagogue. It's a New Reform Temple synagogue. So, but there was something that I wanted to suggest, and I never did it. I was thinking to myself, it'd be great to have like a piece of furniture out there that had a kippah in it in a talit. And I decided, I'm not going to push that one. That's not in my best interest to do that, even though I tell you I should have in my own mind. So then I have this guy here named Glenn Young, who is always trying, I got his permission to talk about him, so I'm not embarrassing him. So who's always trying to find a way to affirm more Judaism, Wouldn't you say that's correct? And so Glenn always talks to me, he said, Rabbi, when is it appropriate to wear the talit, and when isn't it appropriate to wear it? And we kind of go back and forth in it. So, and of course, it's a personal choice. Now, where am I going with this? We are a very liberal Reform synagogue. And our ethos, our philosophy, when it comes to really anything, is that we're opposed to religious coercion of any kind. We value choice and we value diversity. And that's part of Reform Judaism, but I think it's something that's really important here. There is such a variety of Jewish affirmations that are in our congregation, even our sanctuary tonight. It just reflects who we are. But it seems to me that if Reform Judaism is to remain vital and relevant, it must be open to religious experimentation. A hunger exists, and it's not just through my informal interaction, but I think it's part of the general understanding of Jewish sociologists in America, that millennials and Generation X Jews hunger for something that the classic Reform Jews didn't want. They are looking for something that feels more Jewish. And people seek out Chabad, which is fine, not because of its ideology. Rather, they do it because it has a traditionalism that is appealing. It looks and feels Jewish to them. They don't know the philosophy, and if they knew the philosophy, they might question it because some of their philosophy, I think, I believe to be problematic. I'm not fighting with them, but I don't always agree with what they think, and I think most Jews don't really understand what they think. But people go to Chabad. It says 38% of people, American Jews, have some contact with Chabad, and I think the reason is there's some traditionalism there. It's not sterile. It looks Jewish. Reform Jews of an earlier generation wanted a very American Judaism. But in our time, where Jews feel comfortable in their acceptance in America, many seek a return to the richness of Jewish observance. I like autonomy, but let us not be afraid of tradition. I think it's a mistake that the Reform movement has to take out the half of the third paragraph of the Shema because somehow they're embarrassed with the idea that there is a tradition that says you should wear a tzitzit. Now, if you don't want to wear a talit, fine. There's a lot of things as a Jew I don't do. I don't brag about it, but it's an option there. There are a lot of things that we can choose or not to do. That's fine. That's Reform Judaism. That's pluralism. That's choice. But you have to censor the tradition so we can't examine it if we want to. I am so opposed to liturgically what the Reform Judaism has done on this issue. In fact, I think it's an embarrassment, and it makes us look as if we're anti-Jewish, which we're not. Boy, I'm stating this much strongly than I intended to do that. But you know something? It's, as you know, I have less than 12 months now. Well, what's going to happen? I'm never going to speak on Shalach Lecha again. I feel so liberated, I don't know what to do. I'm never going to come down from this. But let's not be afraid of tradition. Let's cultivate a community where we can stand together, each embracing traditions in our own way. A Judaism of diversity and richness is a thriving Judaism. No one way of being Jewish is the right way. I think that's what this congregation stands for. Let us all find for ourselves our right path. Judaism is a big tradition, and there is a place for all of us in it.